And I hope you all had a good time with your mothers and your wives and everything else for Mother's Day. Where would we be without our mothers? And those who have gone on and gone before us and stuff, you know, my heart is out for you as well. Pledge of Allegiance is going to be offered by Vice Mayor Richard Ortega, and our opening prayer will be offered by Supervisor Paul David. Would you stand for both, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Supervisor. Citizen comments on agenda items? None. Brings us to item 7, public hearing. Susan Anderson, would you mind opening us up with that, please?
Mayor, members of council. So this item, I just want to remind the council, you approved a text amendment to allow potbelly pigs in the residential zoning districts. And during that meeting, when you had that discussion, you wanted staff to find a way to, an alternative for the applicant who wanted that text amendment to not have to rezone their property from C2 to residential. So that's what I have before you this evening. And if you will refer to page 2, the proposed text amendment halfway down. So basically, I took, this is 1752-030, it's special requirements for the C2 district. And so what I did is I took E and moved it to F, and then in E's place, I put the language non-conforming single-family dwellings and uses, basically those properties that are grandfathered in but located in the C2 district. They shall comply with the requirements of section 17.28.020 for animals which are considered customary household pets. So that cross-reference, the 17.28.020 takes you back to the residential uses. So this way, that applicant that initiated the whole text amendment process would not have to rezone their property from C2 to residential should this move forward. And the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this issue on April 19th. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend City Council approve this text amendment, citing General Plan Goal Number 1 of the Safford Neighborhood Character Area. Also, staff is recommending approval of the proposed text amendment. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and this is also the public hearing portion of this particular item.
Anyone from council have any questions for Susan? Let's open to the public. Don't all jump at once. I'm going to go ahead and move on. So we're going to go ahead and close and move into our regular meeting. Brings us to item 9, 1, ordinance 021-008. Susan?
Mayor and council, this is the first reading of the ordinance that we just went over for the public hearing. And with that, I will request that Tammy read it into the record.
Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, this is not an action item, correct? Okay. Brings to item 9.2, ordinance 21-009.
This is a request for the mayor and city council to approve and adopt ordinance numbers 021-009, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending City of Safford Municipal Code Title 15, Buildings and Construction, Chapter 1510 International Building Code, and Section 1510-020 amendments. This is the text change for our Code of Ordinances that would take away the provision that any buildings that were 7,500 square feet or over have to be sprinkled with automatic sprinkler systems, and instead we would be using the International Building Code, following their recommendations for when a building has to be needs an automatic fire sprinkler system. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is the second read and a vote.
I'll move we approve ordinance number 021-009.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Brings item 10.1. Tammy?
Mayor, I'm just going to go ahead and read in that ordinance.
Oh,
as
I'm
well.
sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 021-009, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending City of Safford Municipal Code, Title 15, Buildings and Construction, Chapter 15.10, International Building Code, Section 15.10.020, amendments as it pertains to the 7,500 square foot requirement for automatic sprinkler systems.
Great. Thank you. 10.1.
And then, Mayor and Council, I brought forth the April 26 minutes to be approved. Did anybody have any questions on those?
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 11.1, resolution 21-13. Lance?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve a resolution R21-013, resolution authorizing the abandonment of an existing utility easement crossing a parcel of land, assessor's parcel number 101-16-0331C, located at approximately 1204 West Relation Street, owned by Tyler and Shanna Clough. Just a little background, the previous owners of this property had planned to develop this property with utilities that traverse their western edge of their parcel along Relation Street to Rose Lane. And they established a perpetuity easement with the city in 2007 for the utilities to cross this parcel. Since that time, Tyler and Shanna Clough have purchased the property along with the property next door to it. And they have since combined that into one parcel, and this easement that's in place that has no utilities in it cuts right across the one parcel now. So the idea is here to abandon the existing parcel that has no utilities in it, and then we would establish a new easement along their western boundary that would better utilize their needs to get utilities to their property. Staff recommends approving and adopting this resolution and approving the abandonment of the recorded easement. I've attached the existing recorded document. I've also attached a letter requesting from the property owner, as well as an exhibit kind of showing both easements on there if you have any questions. So.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brings to item 12.
Good
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we are going to continue the fiscal year 2022 budget. We'll be reviewing the utility departments tonight. And I just want to remind Council, if you have any comments or recommendations for staff during each department, please, you can let us know during that department. So tonight, we're starting on page 84 of your packet with the utility support department. Utility support department is reducing by $27,000. This reduction is primarily due to a change in staffing. The utility support department did have a part-time FTE. The employee was a full-time FTE, but it was split between utility support and the clerk's office, and this employee is now a full-time FTE in the clerk's department. And so that reduction is the reduction due to a half-time FTE. Are there any questions on the utility support department? The next department will be sanitation. Sanitation is increasing by $81,000. The increase is due to changes in salaries. There is a reclassification of a solid waste collector to a lead solid waste collector. And also in the operations, we've increased the motor pool. And this increase will help to build the fleet replacement fund for the new garbage trucks, the trash trucks. Are there any questions on the sanitation department? Next department will be the fleet department, page 90 of your council packet. In the fleet department, we are decreasing the budget by $30,000. Originally, I do want to point out, originally in the fleet department, staff had recommended to increase our FTEs by one and to add a mechanic. Staff is now recommending, we've removed that one FTE, and the reason for that is because we've spoken with Enterprise and we've discussed with them possibly a new plan that we could go with as far as our fleet replacement program. This would not take over the mechanics position as far as maintaining the vehicles. This would be strictly something that would help to replace our fleet and replace our current fleet replacement fund. And so that's something that staff is looking into. And with this program, we believe that it would be cost effective and it would be more efficient. The vehicles would be newer and may not need to be maintained as often, and so wouldn't have as high of a maintenance need. And so therefore, we want to wait before we include another FTE into the fleet department.
Well, when you pull this off, it got my attention because maintenance is one of the most important things to me. If we can't get these people around town, they're not gonna be able to do anything. So, also, we've lost inmate help for a year, and I kinda thought we only had 2 mechanics, but I believe we have 3. I know you wanna consider not utilizing that till you get more data, but there's a lot of what-ifs with the enterprise that you don't know yet. And we may, depending on when we do get inmates back, how much help that's gonna be. But we have quite a large fleet, and I just wanna make sure that they're keeping up with everything and not being overburdened, because there's a lot of equipment, not just vehicles.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, part of the program, and I've seen the presentations from Enterprise, and this week the Fleet Department Supervisor and Lance will be also joining us for another presentation from Enterprise, but they will provide newer fleet. The replacement rotation would be sooner than what we're currently rotating vehicles, and so that would help with the maintenance and the maintenance needs. But Lance is available to also speak to allow him.
Because keeping up with just the services is quite a chore when you have that many employees and equipment, and generators, pumps, the whole rig in a row.
Mayor and Councilman Lopez, you're exactly right. We have a large fleet, and we've been overwhelmed for a couple of years. We've been down to, we actually have a fleet supervisor who still helps out mechanic and when he can, but we have 2 mechanics and the fleet supervisor. So we originally put this in because we needed a little bit more coverage. When guys are going out to work at the landfill, most of the time it takes 2 of them to work on heavy equipment, which leaves 1 person at the shop. And when we do have inmates, we've got to have somebody there to supervise inmates. So it's more or less a coverage issue, and as well as our on-call status. We have 2 mechanics that rotate the on-call status, and so every other weekend they're switching that on-call status, and that gets tiresome sometimes. So that's the reason this was put in originally, and like Alma mentioned, we did talk about seeing what Enterprise has to offer first. It won't limit our preventative maintenance much at all, because we'll still be doing the preventative maintenance on all our vehicles, but maybe it'll change things. We just wanted to see what would happen, maybe have the discussion first. Just because we wanted to put this in here didn't mean that we were going to hire somebody on July 1 either. We'd have to go out and find somebody qualified, and when I told Alma about this originally, I thought we may go 6 or 8 months into the budget year before we find somebody that's a fit too. So
Now, you're not getting the cream of the crop necessarily when you have added help from the Hill.
yeah.
But this is an important, it's very important. I'd almost trade it off for some of the other stuff you got before us. But we'll see what you and Kevin and the rest of you come up with.
Like I said, it doesn't mean we don't have a need for it, and we'll do whatever you recommend. There is a need for it, put it that way.
What would that salary be, approximately?
Well, I think Alma had it.
About 70,000.
Yeah, it was 70,600 with all the benefits.
Yeah, so that's all in.
We were looking at
We've got a lot
it.
of things in the budget that we may or may not spend. I just didn't see it in there. If we don't need it, that's great. But, if we do need it, it's all over the place. That's just me personally, but, if we don't need somebody, certainly don't spend the money, but have available in case this isn't working the way we thought it might.
And we were looking for like an entry level to where it would be someone that could help with the preventative maintenance items a lot, so.
And I don't want you to get rid of it just because you want to trim the budget in some areas. It doesn't do us any good that way.
Well, there's a definite need there for it, there is.
I believe there is.
All right, so we'll look at adding that position back if that's the consensus of the council. Okay, all right, that
Well,
sounds good.
That's mine. I don't know about the rest of them.
Okay. All right, any other questions with the fleet department? All right, moving on to the landfill. Landfill has increased by $152,000. There is a $100,000 charge that we've included in there. That $100,000 has been added to rent some needed equipment while the scraper is being repaired. So the scraper is a large piece of equipment that we will need to have an additional piece of equipment to replace it during the time that it's not going to be available. And then there's also an increase in the engineering based on some landfill capital projects. Are there any questions on landfill?
Just let me always know what page you're on so I can stay with
Oh, okay. And we're on page 90, landfill starts on 93. Okay. All right, so next we have the water department.
And compactor is not the compactor we used to use to smash the recyclables. It's the compactor that, like the sheep's foot, right, or the foot? That's the compactor you're talking about? Or did I get you off?
Yeah,
Oh, we're on landfill.
we're not talking compactor. We have a scraper up there that we haul all our dirt for cover material, and the scraper is kind of reached its useful life as far as what we've got, but we can't find a replacement. So what we've got with Empire, and we're going to do a complete rebuild, basically rebuild the scraper we have, and so that's built into the budget for a rebuild. And then, like Alma mentioned, we have a rental price in here for 3 months for a scraper if we need it. Hopefully we can haul enough dirt to get by for a while they're rebuilding our scraper. But that's what we're talking about, is the scraper, not the compactor.
All right. It's a different tangent I was talking about. Another one of them I'll get back to you on.
Okay.
Not circle back, get back to you.
All right.
Okay.
All right, water wastewater begins on page 97 of your council packet. And water is decreasing $136,000. There's minimal changes in the salaries and the benefits. Operation has reduced about $70,000. Approximately $44,000 of that is due to a reduction in supplies and fuels, and that's based on the current year's and previous year's actual usage. The motor pool has also reduced by $22,000, and that's due to some of the vehicles reaching the full replacement cost. And then engineering has also changed just due to capital projects. Any questions on water? Oh, sorry about that. Next up on page 101 is wastewater. In the wastewater, there's been an increase of $106,000. There's a slight increase in personnel, and that's due to restructuring of the water and wastewater personnel. There has always been 2 FTEs within the wastewater, but we've now placed the 2 employees who are actually working more in wastewater. We've actually placed their salaries and benefits in wastewater, so that was more of a transfer. And supplies have increased approximately $15,000, and that's again based on the previous year's actuals and the current year's estimated actuals. We also have an increase due to the debt service, and the debt service is for the effluent line to the Graham County Fairgrounds. And in finance, we will be doing an accounting transfer of water revenues to cover that debt service, and the revenues are coming from the Graham County water usage. So. Any questions on wastewater? In the wastewater treatment plant, page 104, we have an increase of approximately $64,000. The wastewater treatment plant, we're currently in negotiations for the contract for the management of the services. And so at this time, we're unsure of what the final cost will be. We've added about approximately $76,000 to accommodate for that new contract.
And you just have that, sorry, Nick. You just have that cushion there, you're not anticipating that much of a...
Mayor, Council Lopez, there is an anticipation, and I'll allow Morgan to speak a little bit more in regards to his negotiations.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, so Alma's correct. We are in negotiations with a firm by the name of Jacobs, and it is anticipated for the contract to increase, but it will not exceed the amount that we budgeted.
That's not real assuring, but that answers my question.
So as of right now, the proposed cost is $675,000 for an annual fee for them to do that. Infomark right now is at about roughly $590,000, about $85,000 increase.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor,
Go ahead, John.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, we've been having ongoing discussions, so the amount that Morgan is discussing is already less than where we began. So we're in the process of discussing that price, but we've already gotten it down some. Hopefully that's a little more encouraging.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So one thing I will add comment is that how we did this process is we went out for qualifications. So first we asked for qualifications of the vendors, and we selected a vendor based on the most qualified. Through there, we went through the negotiation process and reading and listening to what they offer. I do believe they have more administrative oversight and also process control, which then would be able to get our plant where we need. So it will increase, but I believe we will be getting more for the services that we pay for.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping.
Any other questions on the wastewater? Or wastewater treatment plant? Next department will be the gas on page 106. So gas is increasing $27,000, and the increase is primarily due to salaries and benefits. In the gas department, they have some CDLs and some other certifications that their employees are eligible for, and most of those increases actually have occurred in the current fiscal year and weren't in the previous year's budget, and so therefore it's showing that increase. But most of them have already received those CDL and wage adjustments for their certifications. And then they also have 4 longevities in fiscal year 2022. Any questions on gas? Next department is the electric department on page 110. The electric department is reducing by $157,000. And their primary reason for reducing is in their internal services. Their warehouse and their engineering have both reduced. Again, engineering is based on projects. The warehouse, we actually changed our process for the warehouse, and one of the accounting processes, it allows us to not keep large electric items in inventory, and so we removed a lot of those items, and so therefore they're being purchased and brought directly to the electric department rather than sitting in inventory, which reduced our inventory slightly as well. And that process was changed in the current fiscal year.
That's kind of, I don't know, keeping, like you have a big, say, 1,500 transformer at Walmart. You don't get one of them overnight from somewhere, so I'm sure we still have some stuff on the shelf that's high numbered.
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, that is correct. We do have the items available. The problem with keeping it in inventory is we now have to, when we have those items, we have to capitalize them because they're large dollar items and they need to begin to depreciate. They cannot just sit on the shelf, and their shelf life, we need to account for the time, even though it's not physically in use. Electric items are the exception, and we have to begin to account them as if they were purchased and expense them.
So we're not getting rid of them.
But they're not getting rid of them,
Okay,
no, and we
well,
still
unless
have
you-
them available, yes.
Unless you have a working agreement, say with the co-op in Sulphur Springs, and you're not duplicating something, and you'll help one another out if you need an item.
Correct, yeah, those other processes will not change. It just, we just have to account for them differently in our accounting system now.
Good, just tell me like that. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the electric department? I have one other thing that I want to go over really quickly. So we have made some changes already in the original proposed budget that was given to council on the one-on-one meetings. And so I just wanted to go over just a few of those changes that we've made. At the next council meeting, I will have a summary of all the budgets, and also at the next meeting, we'll also be bringing a request for council to approve a tentative budget. At the time that the tentative budget is approved, the budget is set, we set the limit of expenditure, and so from the time you approve your tentative budget to the time you approve your final budget, you will not be able to increase the budget, but you will still have the ability to make changes to the budget. So at the next council meeting, after you approve the tentative, you will still have the opportunity to make any changes after you see the summary of all of the budgets. So I just want to make sure that that's very clear. But these are some of the significant changes that we've made. In the general fund, we did add the $15 million for the PSPRS unfunded liability bond. That is an item that we've discussed several times, and it'll be available in the budget, and council at their request may request to bring that item, and staff can bring that forward whenever council is ready to do so. The fire department, we're currently in the process of updating their pension plan, and so we have some attorney fees and actuarial services that will carry over into the next year, and so we have increased their budget by $17,000. Now half of that is reimbursed by the fire district. So those were some additions we did. Some reductions that we did. The city manager had a reduction in professional services of $10,000. Legal services, we looked at the council fees and having the legal counsel at the council meetings. and we reduced that by $5,000. There's still some available funds in there to still have the an attorney present during some of the meetings, but he probably will not need to be at every single meeting during the entire meeting. So we took that into account and did some reductions there. In the city clerk's office, originally there was painting for the Tahoe of $7,000. With looking at enterprises and possible changes, we felt that we could hold off on that, and so we did reduce their budget by $7,000. In human resources, we removed the supervisor training with the transition of a possible new human resource officer. That is something that we can allow possibly to change at a future time, so we did remove that training. We also reduced the employee education assistance, and that's based on the current employees that are currently requesting assistance for reimbursement. In the police department, we had a couple of shelving, secure lockers, and also in their testing and certifications, so their budget was reduced by about $5,000. And then the fleet department, we did originally remove that new FTE that we were requesting, but we will be putting that back based on the conversation tonight. So these are just a few of the things that significant changes that we've made. Again, next meeting I will bring a much larger summary of all the budgets. But if you have any questions on any of the budgets, or would like to see something different, or if you have any recommendations, we still have time to make those changes.
Well, I don't see on there, kind of like, and I know we have a contract going with the county at this time, but 911 call, dispatch, it goes up. Caring for the animals, it goes up like 3% every year, and I've asked in the past, are we is this just us, or is that across the board with everybody else in the county that uses these things?
I'll allow Glenn to address that.
And I know we're in a contract with them now, or possibly could have gone up higher, what they asked for and stuff.
Mayor Couch, Councilman Lopez, I answered last time I told you about what they were looking at doing and all that, and after that meeting, I explained the difference. It is across the board with all the entities that are involved, Thatcher, Pima County, it's gone up. But also talked to Mr. Welker there at the county, and he says that they believe they're caught up to where they thought they had been behind for years, and believes it should stabilize from this point on for a while. But this contract that we're in, the reason it's going up is because it was something that we signed years ago, that this is just the final year of that contract.
Final year, so you're gonna be on the ball for the next one.
Well, we hope. You just never know with the way things go, but yes, that's the plan.
Okay, sir.
Are there any other questions on the budget, or anything presented tonight or in previous nights that? Okay.
All right, brings us to item 13, announcement of current events. Anybody have anything?
I don't know if current events or if we're ever gonna get to talk about it, but, has been some input you might have got. I don't know how it works. Amy may shut me up with emails with people having concerns with what we're gonna do with the parks, 14th Avenue.
I wrote that down, so, this is also time to put things on the agenda, so at this time too, so.
I didn't see that.
I think that our parks needs to get on our next agenda so we can talk about it. See if we really want to invest in the community or not. I think it's time that we do something and make it happen. I know that there's been quite a bit of emails going back and forth. I hope they went to all of you guys, and I hope you actually opened them up and at least responded to the ladies about parks. And if not, I encourage you to. I encourage them to reach out to all of you. So that's probably one reason why you've received emails. But we're getting ready to develop a new park, and it might be an opportunity for that park to expand if the council so chooses to expand that by giving it some money. So I want that on the next agenda. Is that good enough?
Yeah, yes, because Mayor, other than, I think two of them, and one of them new, we're at our fund balance levels. So we've met that, and then even if the budget goes up, so does the fund balance, percentage-wise and stuff. And so if we've met our backup, we do need to look into doing some spending.
Yep. We have some CARES Act monies too that we could possibly throw that direction, but we can talk about that at
Okay.
that time, so Tammy don't shut us up.
Okay.
Also,
Getting
I'd like,
close.
yeah, I'd also like, an update on our E-sessions, the stuff, that we talked about in E-session. There was 2 items on there. I'd like to have an update on that. It could either be through an email to us or it can be in session, but I'd like to have an update on that. Anybody else? Okay, you're good?
Yep. I think it's Police Appreciation Week, I'm not sure, but
Is it?
is it Police Appreciation Week? National Police Week.
National.
Okay. Which I didn't,
That kind of vaguely goes into our current events.
okay, thank you, Tammy.
Just for a minute, Mayor, it's National Police Week. This is where they recognize all the law enforcement officers across the nation that have been killed in the line of duty. And they actually put on quite the presentation for them and their families back in Washington D.C. I got to experience that when I was in the FBI Academy. It was quite the experience. So, appreciate you bringing that up.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I just have a comment. I'd sure like to thank our police department and all the enforcement in the valley here for the drug bust that they had, that happened over the weekend. We have a fantastic bunch of committed officers and staff within Graham County. Thank you.
Very well. Agree, echo. Anything else? Item 14, report on operational items. Nothing, John?
You looking at me?
Well,
We can't adjourn yet, but we will.
I must be slacking.
We have a motion.
I must be slacking.
All those in favor?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about it.
I must be slacking.
I didn't say a damn thing.
You know what? I didn't either.
You did all right, so I did it. You didn't say one. Didn't.
Burning a candle at both ends.
I didn't.
It's gonna catch up to us at some point.
There was,